Hey guys, welcome back to Armchair Quarterbacks Mile High Edition. I'm Michael Worth.
I'm Nick Duran. Greetings from Saturday night. Normally we do this on Sunday, but scheduling conflicts with the All-Star game, had to make sure that we were able to watch it. We're probably one of maybe 48 people to watch the All-Star game
Right.
tomorrow night, but wanted to give ourselves the opportunity to do so. How's your week been, Mike?
It's been good. There's a lot of good storylines in the Colorado sport world. We got a lot
Absolutely.
about, so that's always a good thing.
So speaking of the All-Star break, is it going to be one, thoughts on the All-Star game in general? Should they be playing it? Are you going to watch? I know I'm not.
I'm not going to watch, but they should absolutely be playing it. I mean, they're getting paid to play a game. If the dude at McDonald's has to go to work every single day for minimum wage, they should have to play in the All-Star game and not cry about it.
The thing is well, with TNT buying the rights to the game for north of $850 million, if they were not to play the game, the NBA would have to give that money back, and the NBA is not in the league of or in the game of writing checks, and so players are kind of it's a joke game anyway. It's not going to lie, but it's not like they go hard.
You could literally turn, if you really wanted to be entertained, you could turn the game on with 4 minutes left. Pride starts to kick in a little bit, and it comes down, and they play a few possessions hard. But when the score is 192 to 189, there's not a whole lot of defense to be played.
Yep. Do you think with Nikolai getting the starting nod on Team LeBron, kudos to him. Shout out for him on that one. MVP of the All-Star game for Nikolai on the sleeper, or is he just going to get his 13 minutes and then they're going to sit him down?
Probably 13 minutes and sit him down. And to be honest, he's not the kind of guy who's going to try to score or going to try to get the game going in his hands. So he's just going to enjoy it. I see he's like a big teddy bear who just likes to play basketball. He takes it seriously, but I think he is more of a humble nature where he's just going to take a backseat like he did last year.
Do you think well, I know we talked about last week your favorite player, Will Barton.
Oh yeah.
I read an article this week about the nickname that he gave Nikolai. Do you know what his nickname is now?
What's the nickname?
Big Honey.
Oh, Big Honey? Isn't that
yeah
Jack's name or something, right?
Look, I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest with you.
I don't like it. I mean, I like the Joker. I mean, it goes with him. But, yeah, I don't know about Big Honey.
Every time I see Nikolai Jokic play, he just reminds me of a big fat potato. And I don't know. And it's not not a weird – I'm not trying to be mean to the guy, but he looks like a big fat potato.
I mean, I hear you. I always joke when I don't have to do it anymore, but in the past, I would tell people that big goofy white guy is the best player on our team, and he's probably a top 10 player in the league, and nobody knew who he was. I tell him it's funny because if you were on a playground and there were 20 players and you were picking, he would be picked last.
Dead last.
Nobody would pick him. I mean, he does not look like an athlete. He doesn't look like a basketball player other than he's tall. And he's got a goofy personality, which is part of the reason I like him. But no, you would never expect that he's a top 5 player in the NBA.
Well, at least we know we can't call him Mr. Potato Head anymore. It's just Potato Head. Just Potato Head.
Every time I hear that, I think of Toy Story. You know, where Woody says out to Hey Potato Head, do you believe me? And he goes, that's Mr. Potato Head.
They're gonna have to go cut that line out of that movie.
Yeah. So, but back to the Nuggets. You know, we're going into All-Star break on a 4-game win streak. Is it going to kill our momentum, or are we needed a rest? We do have a lot of injuries. What do you think?
I think it's too early to kill the momentum. I would say if it was like an 8, 9, 10, 11 game streak, we might have an argument from a momentum shift. But, between 1 and 4 games, it's just, everyone gets streaky in the NBA anyway. Do I think we're playing better than we've played all season? 100%.
Yeah.
We look like a completely different team. We play defense. To your point last week, Michael Porter Jr. Is looking
Finally
like
getting
he's supposed.
good.
He's looking like he's supposed to look
Yes.
when he
Yeah.
steps out on that court, which is exciting to see. And I think, to your point, from an injury standpoint, this will only help us get healthy or healthier to really kind of make a run. Trying to get that top 4, top 5 seed going into that the final stretch of the season.
See, I think, yeah, we got Murray. He's playing lights out. He started slow. He was averaging under 19 points the first couple months of basketball, but in February he was averaging just under 26, shooting 51 from the field and 46 from three. So maybe we're getting Bubble Murray back. Maybe they'll be consistent finally. Maybe he's just healthy. But it's nice to see him playing well, efficiently, and consistently.
I
I think I'm losing you. Are you there?
Yeah, so Jamal Murray is absolutely playing lights out, like he did in the 2020 playoffs. Can he keep it going? I hope he can. He's at least at this point, he's the motor that keeps us going. With Nikolai, he's without a doubt the MVP candidate. But from getting him the ball consistently, it starts from Jamal Murray.
The thing is you know exactly what you're going to get from Jokic every single night. You're going to get a top level performance. The problem is you don't get a second player every night to give a top level performance consistently. So if Jamal Murray can be that, you already know you're going to get something good from Jokic, and he is going to be a big key. And another big key is, are we witnessing the newest big three in the NBA, man? This is, like you said, Porter Jr. was good last week, and I just looked it up. They had averaged in the 3 games last week 73 points, 25 rebounds, and 14 assists combined. So that's a lot of points for 3 people. I mean, that's nice.
The thing that I want Michael Porter Jr. to almost realize or understand is it's okay to maybe slow down a little bit. I don't want him to get too aggressive with his shot. He has a tendency, in my opinion, to get a little streaky, and he tries to shoot his way out of a paper bag, just like J.R. Smith used to do back in the day. It used to drive me absolutely crazy. He's like, hey, if you're not making shots, just keep throwing them up, because maybe one of them will go in.
Hey, shooter mentality, man. Live by the 3, die by the 3. But
so that's where for him, like he's been hot. His game, it just looks more natural than it has in a while. I just don't want him to push too much or try to do too much. And because he does have a good support system around him, and right now he was the 3 of the big 3.
He's the yep.
And he has, like we talked about last week, that he has the potential to be, definitely top 2. But right now, just, let the game come to him. Don't try to do too much. And then I think he's going to have a lot more success than versus trying to push, which I'm fearful he might.
See, the thing that I like, and it seemed like a big step in maturity for him, is he was contributing at different levels of the game and not just scoring. There was a game, I think he had like 15 rebounds. I think he had 17 points and 15 rebounds that game. He had a huge block in one of the games. So he's playing with a lot of energy on the defensive side, and he's crashing the board. So to your point, the shot is not always going to fall. It doesn't fall for everybody unless you're Steph Curry. But if he can contribute on the defensive side, being the right,
correct,
he's I think found the right role being put in the 4. I think the other 4s are just not fast enough. They don't like coming out to be up in his face on the 3-point line. So he is. I think Malone has found a spot for him in the starting rotation. I think he's more of a natural 4 than a 3. So hopefully it works out, and that was what we needed.
He's a lot like Kevin Durant, in my opinion. Just
he's got a very silky smooth game.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So if he keeps, doing what he's doing, it's not that far fetched to think that he's going to be in the same category in
No,
two,
not at
3 years
all.
from now.
Not at all. Do we add one of the newly cut players? DeMarcus Cousins cut a week ago. Nobody's picked him up yet, and the big one was last night. Blake Griffin, he was cut. You think either
Well,
of them have any interest in signing with Denver, or are they just going to go play league minimum for Los Angeles?
I think they're gonna. To be honest with you, they're probably both gonna go play for an immediate contender. I think Blake, his smartest option from a winning a championship standpoint is truly going to the Nets. Do I want him to go to the Nets? No. Do I think he'd be a really good piece for the Denver Nuggets based off of his athleticism and what he brings every day to the court? I think we would be becoming a contender overnight if Blake chose the Nuggets. Do I think that the Nuggets are going to pull the trigger on him? No. I think that if they were going to pick one of the two, it would be Boogie Cousins.
I
From
think
a defensive presence, he just adds that size. Nikolai, he doesn't scare me. Like, again, he's a big fat potato,
and he's got like a nasty streak. We're like
yeah.
the fun Nuggets. I agree with you. I think DeMarcus Cousins would make fit our team better as far as a role that we don't have. Blake Griffin is a better player, but he's going to not be available for us. I just don't think
No.
it. But DeMarcus Cousins has sat for 2 weeks with nobody calling him. I think he feels an immediate need for the Nuggets and immediate presence, and he's just, like I said, he's nasty. He's going to be intimidated,
and he's cheap.
He's cheap, and we don't need him to be a Sacramento Kings 25 and 14 DeMarcus Cousins. We need him to play 15 to 20 minutes.
Yep, I'll take the Houston's DeMarcus Cousins, the 20 minutes, the 10 points a game, the seven boards, and call it a day. Because your presence on the court, especially running with that second team in that second quarter, I think gives us, maybe a Band-Aid for our second quarter woes that we've talked about multiple times. But I think his presence on the court when just is something that we're lacking, and we truly need to be successful.
Yep, and he could play a floor spacer too at this point.
Correct.
Actually develop.
Absolutely.
So let's move on to the Broncos. A couple big things happened this week. We tagged Justin Simmons for the second year.
Wasn't happy about that one.
It's good financially.
Good financial, but I wanted to lock him up.
If they can't lock him up, he's gone. I mean, he's gone next year. He's not going to play the full season on a franchise tag and then say, I'll sign a long-term deal. If they can't get it done before the season starts, he'll walk.
I completely agree. I think it was disappointing when that news came out that he was tagged, that we just couldn't get a deal across. Based off of what I've read, the two sides aren't that far apart. So that's a positive, I guess, from a negotiating standpoint, but you just want your new GM to come in and not make the same type of mistakes that your old GM, Senior Elway, would make year in and year out with great players that we would let walk for whatever reason. And I was hoping for a different outcome, at least in the short term.
This is a very tricky year for NFL teams and sports across professional sports across the board. Their salary cap is based on revenue. In 2020, the revenue was down. So the salary cap, 2019, it was like 198 million. Our last year was 198 million. If there was no COVID season, it would probably been 210 this year. But instead, they put a floor on it at 180. So as you're building these contracts, there's a lot of teams hurting right now, and the Broncos, unfortunately, are not one of them. We have actual cap space, and the Chiefs have negative 30 million. They got to cut lots of players just before they could even fill out their roster.
Which makes me happy, to be honest with you. I knew that with that massive contract with Mahomes and Kelsey and Tyreek Hill, that they had their window was extremely short to get a couple championships to Kansas City. And now we're finding out that, with the reduction in cap space, that they're going to have to let go a couple halfway decent players, and they're not going to be the same team that they used to be. So now it's about which GM is going to find the diamond in the rough, the right players at the right time, to fill certain gaps that we have, or any team has for that matter, with the plethora of players that are in the market right now.
And they're going to be either creatively structured contracts, like
Mm-hmm.
um, low cap hits in the first year with hope that the next year the cap goes way up and a bigger cap hit that year. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see because there's going to be a lot of players cut that are really good.
Speaking of cutting a player, Von Miller.
If they cut Von Miller, man, it just makes no sense to me. Like, and let me tell you why. Okay, JJ Watt is more injury prone than Von Miller. You can compare the two careers throughout. They got drafted the same year. JJ Watt's won a couple defensive players a year, but Von Miller has been every bit as disruptive as a defender. Now,
Correct.
we cut him. It's pretty much 5 million dead money. I saw a report that Melvin Ingram would be a replacement. Um, he's gonna be $10 to $12 million anyway. So you're gonna pay him 12. You're gonna have dead money at Von Miller at 5, so you're at 17 million. Just pay Von Miller. He's a better player. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's no reason.
I would not take Melvin Ingram over
Oh,
Von Miller from a production standpoint. It's just not going to happen.
the drop
History,
huge.
there's a huge drop off from a production, and history doesn't bode well for Melvin Ingram. From we can't say, oh, you've had 2 good years where you've had double digit sacks, but
Yep.
collectively you average between 5 and 8 every single year, to all of a sudden think that you're going to come here and you're going to hit 15. It's not realistic.
Do you take the 2 years he's had double digit sacks or the 2 years Miller did not in his long career? I would bet money on it that Miller comes back very good shape and ready to play. Now, I don't like how Fangio uses him. That first year in Fangio's defense was awful. He dropped back into coverage, I think 50% of the time, it seemed like,
Yep.
which is ridiculous because A, he's not good at that. And even if he was good at it, he's far less valuable back there than he is putting pressure on the quarterback every single snap.
Correct. So, but I guess from a Von Miller standpoint, we know what he can do on the field. Does his, you know, off the field issues,
Well,
cause any concern?
I mean, there's no charges. We found that out yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
DA is not going to press any charges. So at this point, I think he's been a good enough role model. He's not going to be he's not JJ Watt in that standpoint where he's never going to make a mistake, but it's not like he screwed up big time. This was like the first real big thing. It was like, what did he do? He got in trouble for smoking weed and that kind of stuff, but that was early in his career.
Mm-hmm.
I think as far I don't I mean, I don't know what the whole criminal investigation was about. I didn't see too much information on it. They didn't let a whole lot out. So it would be interesting to hear what they were investigating.
True. Do you know the weird thing about athletes similar, like a Von Miller, is that you have so much time and money and resources at your disposal to protect yourself from doing just stupid crap all the time. And this might be a little bit too soon, but I'm going to say it. Tiger Woods, for example, I know it has nothing to do with the Rockies or Broncos or Nuggets, but maybe he shouldn't just drive a car. Like, I've never seen someone get in so many single car accidents in my entire life outside of Tiger Woods. It's unreal. Like, you drive 40 yards, you hit a tree, you fall asleep, or whatever the case would be in this situation. The driving under the influence with the prescription meds. I'm like, just
early in the morning. It does not make sense. He's coming from a hotel, I think, at that point. He's in town for a tournament, so I'm assuming he's coming from a nice hotel that would offer limo service or cab service, whatever type of service. Say, hey, Mr. Woods, would you like to ride in the Bentley today from Beverly Hills to your golf course?
Thank you. It's just like, hey, just sit down and
Yeah.
stop driving. Like, it's not that hard. It's really not. I mean, you have $1 billion. You tell me you can't get someone to drive your car for you? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully he recovers, but to your point, it doesn't make sense. The drinking and driving stuff that you see all the time. What was the Broncos? The running back. Didn't he got in trouble? Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, Melvin Gordon. Yeah, DUI.
DUI. How in the world do you get a DUI with millions of dollars in your bank account? They got Uber Black. You don't have to call Uber normal. You can probably black. I mean, if you feel like your standards are above like the Civic that might pull up.
Yeah, I completely agree. Completely agree. It just makes absolutely no sense to me how they doing this. But moving on to the Colorado Avalanche.
I need to lean on you a little bit on this because me, I had such high expectations for the Avalanche. So I know they're not doing bad, but 2-6-2 losses in the last couple weeks. They're a couple games back in the played column, but they're 15th in points, man. What's going on?
They are just not playing up to their potential. And this, and I'm just going to say it. It's obviously just my opinion. I'm not in the locker room. I think they got a little cocky with all the preseason hype and thought that wins were just going to come. And it's really interesting to watch the division that they're in. I honestly think whoever comes out of the West is going to win the Stanley Cup. Just because all teams in that division are just really, really good. And I thought it maybe just seems that they thought it was going to be a little bit more of a walk in the park this year. And they're finding out that they are the best team in hockey. So what that means is that they're going to get everyone's best shot every single night. You should not lose 6-2 to the San Jose Sharks.
After going up 2-0. What in the world? You're up 2-0 in the second and you lose 6-2?
Yep. And so, I think they got to shore up some loose ends at goalie. Grubauer had a phenomenal first, 20 days of the season. Led the league in saves against that, or goals against, save percentage. He was 1 and 2, and then he's kind of hit a brick wall, which is unfortunate because I think the talent is there. But there might be time from a concern standpoint to take a step back and be like, okay, like we need to reassess, start doing the little things better. You can't, like we talked about last week, you can't go 0 for 16 on power plays, and expect to be a contender and win games that you should win. And so there's some work to do with the Avalanche. I still think they are going to finish in the top 2. Top 3 in the West. I think there's a lot of games left to play, but right now it's a little concerning.
Yeah, and at a certain point, I hear you because the Avalanche are super young. I mean, you look at all of their players; they got a lot of players 22, 21, 23. So ESPN, NHL.com, everybody picked them to either win the cup or be a contender. So yeah, it can go to your head. I get that. Is this a coaching hot seat situation? Is that the coach's fault?
No, I don't think so. I think we got a great coach, to be honest with you. I just think that there's just too many things going wrong right now. I don't think the youth is the main focus. We got to shore up some of the defensive sets. We have to shore up the power play, like we talked about. We have to just score more goals. We have to figure out a way to score 3 goals a game, 4 goals a game. We're not going to win in this league with scoring 1 or 2 goals. Like it's just not.
No. And I'm going to be honest. I miss the days of the Red Wings and Avalanche hockey. I miss that hockey a little bit. But it is a faster, more entertaining game overall nowadays with the high scores, fast skaters. But I would like to see a Chris Simon fight every now and then.
No, I agree. It's the physicality standpoint. We're more of a finesse team than we've ever been. I don't think we intimidate anybody from a physicality standpoint, right, wrong, or indifferent. I just don't think we step on the ice and we're intimidating.
That's not our core. That's not what we're built around. So
no, which it's 95% of the time, 90% of the time that might work, but it doesn't hurt to have that. The 1 or 2 players that the Adam Foots of the day that will drop the gloves and go toe to toe just to make a point.
You need somebody who's going to protect your star players, and I don't think we have that.
No, I agree. From an Avalanche standpoint, though, I still think the upswing is good. I think they're just kind of in a rut. They'll hopefully hit their groove, and if not, it just gives us more to talk about. Just from a or they're gonna fall right in line with every other Colorado sport on the line of disappointment.
Sure, man. We have the best team in the league in every sport every year at opening day, and then for some reason we don't win the championship.
It's weird how that happens.
I could honestly say though that this next topic is not the best team in baseball on opening day.
No, they're really bad actually on opening day.
I was trying to see like starting lineups, what like projections are going to be, who's going to be playing. Don't know a lot of them.
I feel like the Rockies, it's like you could just pick a dartboard and throw a dart and, insert here of whatever player's name you want to put, because half of our team, I have no idea who these players are.
Yeah.
Not at all. Like, I know the pitching rotation. I know those guys. There's only one new guy that we talked about last week. But other than that, CJ Cron, I know we talked about him. Does he have potential? I mean, throw out 2020, I think 2018, 2019, he showed flashes, 25 and 30 home runs in each of those two seasons.
He did have some big years right before the COVID year. He had a 30 home run season, so maybe he could be a big bat. Fuentes, though, he was a solid first baseman for us last year, so he's not guaranteed to even be the first baseman for the Rockies. But Fuentes is also a good utility guy. He could play at third. He could play in the outfield. He's a defensive utility player. So even if he is not the first baseman every day, there's a role for him.
Well, I mean, because they're gonna move Ryan McMahon to third.
Yeah, he needs to step up, man. Him and Brendan Rodgers, they need to have big years because we've been waiting for both McMahon and Rodgers to make the big league roster and contribute, and they just haven't done it yet.
Well, McMahon more than Rodgers. McMahon played the entire season last year on the squad, but Brendan Rodgers, though, yeah, we talked about it on the very first episode of someone that we thought was going to be a shoe-in to backfill DJ LeMahieu, and it just didn't pan out. And then, to keep hyping a player up who hasn't done anything at all, in my opinion, in the league, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, if you were that good, Brendan Rodgers, you would be in the league.
Right.
End of story.
The sad part about it is it is not uncommon for a first-round draft pick to not be good in the major league. So there's top 100 prospects who never make it. And sadly, that is the facts, and I just hope it's not Brendan Rodgers. I hope we hit on him, but he's got to take a big step forward. He's not 21, 22 anymore. I think he's going to be 24 this year. We were hoping he'd be in the league for a year or two by the time he was 24. He was one of those type of players. But 24 is not the world. He's still got a lot of time to grow.
So speaking of time and growth, Trevor Story, Fernando Tatis Jr. just signs a massive 14-year, $340 million contract after only 2 seasons of playing professional baseball. You have someone that signed a 2-year deal, not last year, but the year prior, with Trevor Story making $13.5 million, $14 million a year, $9 million less than Fernando Tatis. Contract extension is going to come up. What do you do? I don't think he's going to get Tatis money. He should, based off of stats and what he can contribute on the field and what he's accomplished. But he's 28.
He's 28, and so he's not going to get that 10-year contract. I mean, I won't say that. I've seen some crazy 10-year contracts.
The Rockies do some silly shit.
But I see him making $25 million a year, whether that's for 5 years or 7 years, whatever it is. It's going to be about $25 million a year, I would imagine. It's out of the Rockies' budget. It's out of the Rockies' pitcher. We've already talked a little bit about this, but he's not big picture. Now, if he's committed to taking a hometown discount and playing for 18 to 20 million for the next 7 years, then let's do it and build around him, because he's a player you can build around. But if you're not committed to building a team and your goal is to save money, let's not pay another team to have our best players play for them.
Right. And if he wants to be looked at as the next, leader on the field and in the clubhouse, and he needs to get more vocal. I think he's just kind of, he goes about his business, and he hasn't had to yet, But with Blackman being as old as he is and Nolan Arenado not being in the locker room anymore, we don't have, that's part of our problem, or, in my opinion, part of our problem over the last, probably 7-8 years is that we haven't had that veteran local leader in the clubhouse that really kind of drove a winning
think
culture. So,
the last I think that was like a vocal leader that you really heard about was LeMahieu. He wasn't the best player on our team, but everybody talked about him as being like that glue guy that just held everybody accountable. And
100, and even the Yankees say that now.
yeah,
So I was watching a documentary on the Yankees, and they fast forwarded to 2019, and even all the young hitters coming through, watching DJ LeMahieu and almost mimicking everything that he did, from where he sat in the locker room, what socks he put on first, followed him into the cage, because he is a quiet leader but produces and goes about his business the right way. In our World Series year, we had Yori Torrealba, who was truly the vocal captain leader of that locker room.
yeah,
We don't have that person right now, and that's outside of our pitching woes and sometimes our hitting woes. We don't have leadership, and
no,
you can't win without it.
you can't. And I feel like there's like that saying, passing of the torch with Rockies is like passing of the match. It's kind of like a sad thing. So we've had like good players throughout the history that we've leaned on. So going back to that World Series year, or even before that, you had Helton, who carried the honor of
Mm-hmm.
being the best player on the Rockies, and then he passed that match to Matt Holliday, and then they traded Holiday, and then Tulo was that guy, and they traded Tulo, and Arenado was that guy, and they traded Arenado. Now Story's that guy, and that's what I mean. It's like carrying a match. It's not even an honor. You're just the next guy to get traded, to get dumped on.
Right.
So I'm
So
hoping that some billionaire who's a fan of Colorado Rockies makes the Mumfords an offer they can't refuse one day. But until that lotto gets up to a couple $1 billion and I win it, it won't happen.
yeah, I mean, because I think the value is at 1.2 billion, so you're going to have to make a 1.5 billion dollar offer for the Rockies,
He'll
and
cross
then have
this
enough in the piggy bank to pay your team.
to run it. Yeah, exactly. So one day that'll happen. And we'll see what happens if I could get him to sell. But
That's funny.
you got any sleepers that we might not know about with the Rockies that might make a difference? That 2007 year, there were guys that we know now like Spilborgs,
Brad Hop.
Brad Hop. There were guys that we did. I mean, even to a certain extent, Matt Holliday. He wasn't a big name at that point. He had one good year. Who's these guys that might be our light down the tunnel?
The person that I think is going to have a breakout year is Tapia.
Okay. Okay.
Um, I just think that he's coming into his own, even though he looks like if a gust of wind comes up, he's going to fall over from his size standpoint. But I just think that he's spent enough time in the league, seen every pitcher for the most part. I just feel, and I want to say breakout for him. Okay, it's not going to be breakout as like a Mookie
Right.
Betts. Okay, this is going to break out for Tapia's 17 home runs, north of 80 RBIs, 35, 40 stolen bases, consistent defensive play in the outfield. I just think that he's going to be a really big contributor this year,
Okay.
based off of kind of what I've seen, how he's played. He always plays really well down the stretch, but I just feel that this year might be his year, and it's going to be someone's going to have to step up, and take over the void of Charlie Blackman and the black hole that he creates in right field.
Yeah, and we don't have a lot of big bats in the outfield. Tappy is not a,
Mm-mm.
and Hampton, he's a quick guy. He's good on defense, and he might hit for average, but he's not going to drive the ball. I think Sam Hilliard is a name
Yep.
they should know, and then Ryan, I think his name is Vilad, but he's our number 4 prospect. He's a big bat. He had a big year in single A last year, or not last year because they didn't play in 2019. So I'm hoping he can be like a July call up or an August call up if there's some injuries, but he's a big power bat. So I'm
Yeah,
hoping.
because what they'll start him in Double-A.
Yeah, Martin
And
Double A,
then
he'd have a big year, and an injury or two, or a slump or two, and maybe he gets that end of the year call up to start making a name for himself. But other than that, there's not a lot of bright spots in our farm club, man.
yes, I mean, I would agree with Sam Hilliard. I mean, Sam has to hit 20 or plus 20. Both Sam and Ryan McMahon have to hit north of 20.
Yep.
Trevor Story has to hit north of 35. He has to hit north of 35. I think Raimel Tapia is going to hit 17. And then you have your 5 to 12, 13 with the rest of the team. We might have an outsider's chance, but this year is still kind of a toss up based off of what we see. And it's unfortunate when the Dodgers have a payroll of 230 million dollars. It's the odds are stacked against you.
I think they have like a $250 million TV contract or something like that they get yearly. So what is $200 million payroll? Who cares?
Yep. So it's really unfortunate that the Dodgers and the Padres, because the Padres are good. They're a good baseball team, and they're going to be good for a while without the payroll that the Dodgers have, and that's the unfortunate part for the Rockies is that we're in a tough division.
Yeah, I mean we're 3-2-1 in a spring training league, so we're above 500.
That doesn't count.
Hey, my book right now.
Jesus. Yeah. So when we lose 10-0 to the Dodgers.
Yeah. Whatever. What are you gonna do? You got to win them somewhere. All right, man. Funny. So that was a good episode. Hope you all enjoyed it. Click like,
subscribe, share. Sharing is caring.
We got to say this at the beginning of the episode, just in case we're not entertaining. But like us and subscribe us.
Yes, absolutely. Until next time, we're out.